Y'all, today is our first non-interview podcast of the year, and we will be alternating every other week like this with different topics to talk about, and we might add some interviews in, but pretty much it just won't be about music. Today's topic, I would have loved to bring in a guest, on the show, but I've really yet to find anyone who can handle those hard conversations without, getting off topic or not caring enough. And besides Clay Morrison, that's pretty much the only person I've found that can disagree and yet, maintain a focus on truth, which is why we find we compromise a lot. And that's not a agree to disagree. We rarely ever end on agree to disagree. It's normally a middle ground where we both see the truth in each other's view and perspective, and we respect the other person in that. Yeah, it just kind of seems like the rest of the community right now responds to truth and accountability with intent to invalidate it, and I think that's because they're just uncomfortable. And I'd say that we're not really growing as a community, and I know that might come as a shock to some, but just stick around. I promise you, I think I have some very valid things to prove that. But I'd say really just off the bat, we're really uncomfortable because we don't share the same foundation of truth, and that's either from a lack of knowledge or a lack of experience, which is okay. Anyone who judges either of those is in the wrong, but it's the fact of if the person themselves doesn't acknowledge it, they're just lying to themselves, And I think in that lack of comfort that people who seek to invalidate those who hold them accountable, that lack of comfort rather, that people have found their own way of thinking. That is how they really comfort themselves. Instead of the comfort coming from the truth, it comes from their own way of thinking. And instead of improving the craft and then seeking, let the truth find them, they're not doing that at all. It seems we're improving our craft, and then we're just seeking to find people that will support our way of thinking while we take all of our followers with us. And that's why everyone just seems so confused when we try to relate to one another on something as simple as a two-step. And I hope you're not writhing in your seat yet if any of that makes you uncomfortable. We're going to get a lot more uncomfortable when we're talking about certain things, but that's the lack of comfort I pretty much face daily, while trying to unify this community that shares my title of being a country dancer, but I don't see much interest in maintaining country as an adjective, if I'm being honest. Yeah, outside of Clay, I can confidently say that most people would probably say I'm extremely negative because they haven't seen the conversations I have with people that are truly helping the community. If people share agrarian, like-minded raising as I did, even if they're not in the dance community, within a couple of minutes, we completely relate to one another and they're finishing my sentences. But I don't find that a lot in the dance community. And I think it's also valid, though, in not seeing me as positive, because it's hard to be seen as positive when 99% of what I see on social media expresses more support rather for pop artists from 2010 than true country today. I mean, just being honest. I seek to promote anyone promoting country things, but now we have nightclubs claiming to be both a honky-tonk yet promoting tennis shoes night. Like, I don't get it. We also have contemporary teachers claiming to teach two-step while also defending Teddy Swims as a country artist. And then also competitions, handing out belt buckles while showcasing Frozen, Somo, and Tyler Cruz. I mean, I just don't know what to say. And if you're too young or maybe too old to know who Somo or Tyler Cruz is, Somo got famous for baby making music like Ride around like 2014 or 2015. And then Tyler Cruz was popular in 2010 for that hit like Dynamite, So, yeah, I don't know. I just see that in a time where contemporary dancers feel the most expressive, this community has had the least amount of healthy discourse, if any, at all, to be honest. I don't see any of our leaders actually talking. Everyone, again, just kind of forms their way of thinking and then just goes on their own way. Either you're with it or you're not. There's no ability or anywhere to discuss things. And I feel like that's because we either look for validation in the ballroom or validation from other dances. But the other side, to be honest, is toxic positivity. I think that's a real root in everything. And the worst part is it's not unique to our community. This is just a way of the times currently in our generation. It's affected other dance styles, though, too. I mean, even ballet and many Latin styles. If you get the chance, go look up sensual bachata. The memes you'll find, it speaks for itself. I don't need to go into that. Focusing in on toxic positivity is what we're doing today. And the dictionary tells us, rather, it's defined as the act of dismissing or invalidating negative emotions in the favor of a false sense of optimism. I would simplify it and just say a lack of emotional maturity to even face the idea of conflict, and in the end, sacrificing truth to maintain a sense of comfort. In that definition, I looked into what most psychologists would see situationally as seeing what toxic positivity is. And some of the examples are avoiding, suppressing, or rejecting negative emotions. You're replacing negative emotions with false assurances. Minimizing or denying authentic human emotions. Telling people to get over their grief or suffering. And then misrepresenting people to others, making them seem hard to connect. So the way I see a lot of those come out is in conversations I have with contemporary dancers. And what's wild is there might have been one time where a contemporary dancer said something that I didn't expect, but every time I talk to a contemporary dancer, it always falls into these 5 categories. And if I have the luck that someone I've argued with or discoursed with online who doesn't agree with me and somehow found this podcast is still listening, I'm extremely thankful for that, and I hope they do. But if you completely agree with me, then you've probably heard some of these same things. And so I'd love to hear from you if you have, so that I feel a little more validated and not feeling crazy in these things. But I hear a lot of the times that, oh, I just want to have fun. Anything I say, they just say, hey, I'm just here to have fun. Dancing is meant to be fun, and that's it, right? I also see, well, I just want more freedom and creativity. That's why we're going after these things. We just want to be more creative and more expressive, right? They'll also tell me, contemporary dancing is just more popular. That's why I do it. It's the most popular dance right now in the country dance community. Okay. Not only that, but they'll fall back on always saying, well, the clubs have to make money. We have to make money, so you got to do what people want. And last but not least, the one that they most rarely say, but all this I feel is based in, is straight apathy. And they'll just say, I don't care. If I say, this is a waltz, why would you not waltz to it? Well, I don't care. Okay. I can at least respect it because they're being honest, but I'd say all of this is based in apathy, but I made its own category just because I want to take a look at that. So in response to those things, there's some certain things that I hear, and then certain things that I want to ask these people if, again, they're still listening. I would love to have some conversations about it. But when I get the response of, I just want to have fun, the first thing that goes to my head is, am I not having fun? Like, the country dance styles that I'm doing have been around for 100 to 150 years. Like, am I not having fun? Are these people that have been doing this for so long not having fun? Or what you're saying is that your fun is less important than me having fun, so we're going to take over the dance floor. And that kind of leads to the question I would have for these people, and that is, if that's the case, where do country folk go to have fun then? If not the honky tonk, if not the dance halls, if not the saloons, if not the places that were set apart because no one thought country was cool enough in the past to have a place to go dancing, besides the 80s, 90s, and now, where can we go to have fun? Are we forced to go back to the farms, have barn dances? Is that what we're supposed to do while these nightclubs continue to claim their honky tonks? Where do we go to have fun? The second response I was saying is, the ability to have freedom or creativity. And what I hear is, I lack discipline. That's what I hear when they say that. Either for themselves, because in the end, true freedom and creativity in art comes from restriction. If I said I was a ballerina, but I was doing hip hop dance, that doesn't make me an expressive or creative or free ballerina. It makes me a hip hop dancer. The point of being a great artist is learning the foundations, learning the restrictions of that dance, that art form, and then learning how to break them. That's how you evolve a dance. That's how you start something new. The other way I think a lot of people are saying this is they believe that discipline is really just for the ballroom. The ballroom is where the standards are, which is what I've definitely heard before. But they think, when I go to the bar room, I'm free to do whatever I want, right? I can do whatever I want. I can dance however I want. I can listen to whatever I want. This is complete freedom. You can't tell me what to do. If you want standards of any sort, go to the ballroom. And I think it's important to recognize that freedom with adulthood comes with a responsibility. That's just basic knowledge. Freedom with adulthood comes with responsibility. I mean, technically, nature is the truest form of freedom, and even that comes with major risk. Anything about freedom, you can't do whatever you want without being ready to take responsibility, And I don't know if people know this, but the ballroom doesn't have culture. And I know a lot of people might have just tightened up right there, but Notice that like the culture I'm talking about right now, don't get lost in the semantics. The culture I'm talking about right now is the culture that you can assume things about people. When ballroom, the whole point of ballroom dancers is that they can do anything. They can fit into anything. The culture comes from the things that they are copying. Because in the end, a lot of the ballroom simply took cultural dances, refined them, and then made them their own. I mean, truly. But that was again, of course, before like 1880 when lower classes actually got to dance. Because before that, ballroom was simply for the elite, right? And they would just take the music that was given to them from, classical artists and composers, and then they would make dances to that. But only they got to do it. And it was all about expressing how graceful and elegant they were in their royalty, right? And so, and that's not to say, again, it's bad because there's not really good or bad. It's just the fact of if our goal is to be country dancers, that doesn't really align with the ballroom, especially current country ballroom dancing. Because ballroom dancing's focus is looking at the step sheet and music sheets and seeing how many times a step sheet can multiply. So how many songs, how many styles can I put this dance over? And that's where the value comes from, right? I mean, that's why West Coast swing has so much value, is because its adaptability is second to none. It can dance to anything. And that's why they made it, and they formed it the way they did, because West Coast swing came out of the 90s and it does not look anything like that anymore. It doesn't even look like it did in the 90s, And that's because West Coast swing's main focus was adaptability, and they've done that. And that's why it's a huge ballroom style right now. But country dancing is stuck to country music. Yes, we can dance to other styles, but when it comes to actually presenting who we are as a dance, we should be presenting it alongside the music that has made our styles, right? I mean, I could be wrong, and I'm more than free to discourse, but I don't see how we can go outside of our culture and with no regard to our traditional styles and then still call it culture. That's why we're all focused in the barroom about that. We listen to a specific style, type of music, and then we match it. That's it. And then regional dances form because they prefer different responses to the same music that's played everywhere. Again, regional dances are formed because they prefer a different response to the same music that's played everywhere. Texas hears a swing, they might go into a two-step. California hears a swing, they might go into an East Coast swing. West Coast swing hears a same song, they hear that swing, and then they might go for a jive or something like that. We all respond differently, and that's okay. The third one is popularity. Oh, it's what's popular, so that's what I'm gonna do. What I hear when they say that is I'm not influential enough, or I don't see how influential I am to be able to change things. They kind of just go with the flow. And on one side, I feel bad because they don't see how influential they are. And on the other side, I don't have too much apathy, because if you're just going with the flow, why are you an instructor? If you're just going with the flow, why are you trying to win things? If you're trying to influence, why do you not see how powerful you are? It doesn't make sense to me. And I'd also say that popularity of the dance, as a whole, it doesn't determine quality, because popularity fluctuates with what you're fed. I mean, look at social media. That's so obvious. People will one day think something's funny, and if the majority of people then start saying, we don't think this is funny, then there are the majority of the other people that will then start thinking, oh yeah, this isn't funny. I mean, not to mention, we're also in an era where we have new country music that no one dancing to. I mean, Zach Top's brand new album. I mean, brand new. It's a year old now, but his debut album, he had every style represented. Two-step, polka, triple two, waltz. I mean, even cha-cha. He had everything. East Coast swing even represented on there. And yet no one is overplaying that in dance competitions. That's not the showcase song for people. And people aren't even following what style he's playing. They're just doing the exact same thing they've always done. So to say it's popular, it's ironic, because you're not actually dancing to what's popular. You're just conforming. I'd also say that I've seen a lot of complaining currently. All of a sudden, people are saying, line dancers specifically are the ones I've seen the most of, but they're saying, all of a sudden, oh, hey, there's way too much pop music. There's just way too much pop music. And I'm not the only one that's seen this. They're saying we need more country music back in here. But yet, less than a year ago, they were arguing with me about what country music should be played. And they didn't realize that without standards, Any new dancer determines our history. Without a history, we lose all culture, and without culture, we're just a nightclub. Again, without standards as new dancers, they determine our history. Without a history, we lose all culture, and without culture, we're just a nightclub. That's the only thing that separates honky tonks from nightclubs. And you wonder why, hey, if these guys want to dance to hip hop, why don't they go to the nightclub? Okay, why don't they? It's because honky tonks are hospitable. Honky tonks have that warmth because of the culture where we want to take care of people and we have standards to honor one another. They won't admit that, but that's what they're taking advantage of. And in that, they want to switch the music, they want to switch everything else. And in the end, we're going to go back to being a nightclub. And I know maintaining standards, it takes effort and time, but we're growing at a rate that we just can't maintain under the current habits. We really can't. So we have to decide as a whole community to take that effort and time to maintain those standards. If not, we're just going to keep hearing people complain about these new wave of dancers not being respectful to either their space, their dances, or their music, or their fashion. But yet I haven't seen anyone stand strong for etiquette, traditions, or standards. I haven't seen anyone. If you have, again, I'd love to know about it. Please let me know. The other response I was saying I hear often is about money. We have to support the club, right? And what I hear that translation is country isn't enough for the nightclub culture. Excuse me. Rather, country isn't enough, but the nightclub isn't safe enough. Just like I mentioned before, the only difference that separates honky tonks from nightclubs is that culture. When you excuse your actions because your honky tonk needs to make money, what you're saying is that we're not enough. Country dancing is not enough. Country music is not enough. Country fashion, country culture, country art, country people are not enough. However, you're also not fighting to change the nightclubs where all this is already happening, because we all know that you don't feel safe there. We don't. I mean, I even know people who don't care about the honky tonk and they don't want to go to the nightclub because they realize how boring it is. It's just people standing around listening to Travis Scott, spending way too much money on bottle service with way too loud of music and flashing lights. That's why no one makes it out of the nightclub culture past, 25. And if they do, they're weird. Again, you can prove me wrong. And if it was all about your local bar needing money, this is a huge thing to talk about. But if it was about your local bar needing money, why is everyone becoming an instructor? If it was all about your local bar needing money, why is everyone becoming an instructor? It's because you have a different way of thinking. You see that you can make money off of this and you're going to become an instructor. When in reality, if your place was truly a honky tonk and you had a great instructor there already, you wouldn't feel the need to go against them, because then that's taking responsibility. Why would I want to take accountability and for something that doesn't need to happen? Let that person who's already there take the responsibility and the accountability that comes with instructing. Just support them, show up to every lesson, learn from them, promote them. But why would you want to do extra work? It's because you want to make money. That's the first thing that always happens with people. And some people, they don't even win buckles and they go straight for instructing. Oh, but John Carter, you haven't won a buckle. No, I haven't. But I'm also a fish that's been asked to climb a tree and then confused why I'm not like other monkeys. It's because the competition wasn't swimming. I was told it was a swim competition. I showed up to swim and there was no swimming. So I'm fine with not winning a buckle. But how many people that would disagree with what I'm doing have come to my lesson and disagreed with me and said something? The answer would be zero. Because everything I teach is based in truth, its foundation is in history, and all my efforts are towards the culture and maintaining that. That's it. Nothing I do is based on skill. I would never base anything on skill, because just like I mentioned before, you are allowing these new dancers to come in and take over, and that's what's going to happen if you keep focusing on skill. Last but not least is apathy. I just don't care about two-step. I just don't care about waltz or polka or triple two. What I hear that translating to is agrarian people don't matter to me. And I understand it's hard to care about something you don't understand, but I'm just confused why you want to be affiliated with folks I know you've heard being talked down to. Like, it's not a positive thing to be agrarian. That's why we have names like rednecks and hicks and hillbillies. It's not a positive thing. And I could follow a whole tangent on that. I already have in the history of Honky. If you haven't listened to that episode, you can go listen to that now. But being from the country, being Western, is not positive. So how do you not see the lack of respect for the culture? Or rather, I guess you could explain to me how you do see it, yet you still want to be affiliated with it. Poorly affiliated with it. I just don't get it. And some might say, hey, John Carter, culture changes with time and so does dance. I've heard that plenty of times. And yeah, culture changes in the country and Western world as well. As crazy as it is to say, it does change. What I've seen is that women are being represented more accurately in public spaces. That's a change, right? I also see men are extremely expressive now and far more creative in fashion artistic choices. I've seen that as a change. Hollywood is also filming more natives and vaqueros instead of whitewashing history. Not to mention our black cowboys are definitely getting more representation in Hollywood. That's a good change. But my question to you is, why is dressing like our grannies and granddaddies while having manners like them too still being sought out by folks even outside of our culture? Yeah, as things change, they also stay the same, but I also think too many people are talking about this change without realizing that change can also be negative. What does J. Cole say? I'm proud of you. You've come a long way, but you went the wrong way. So we're saying we've covered a lot of distance, but I'm asking you, which direction did we go? Because change happens every second, but growth requires effort. And I don't see growth in our community right now, to be honest. I'm seeing a lot of mutating. And don't get confused with what I'm saying. I said mutating, not we are mutating, because the adaptation comes from consistent action. And through that action, it develops us. And over time, that makes major changes. That truly evolves us. Mutation is a risk. It's not controllable, and it provides majority negative results for the organism. I mean, that's how evolution came about, if we talk about it in a scientific point. Mutation drives evolution, and that's why we see so many that have failed, so many organisms that failed, because only the strong survived. But rarely did that mutation benefit the organism that survived. The only reason we still see the certain organisms that have evolved is because of the positive mutation. Be aware of that. That's why I also see a lot of people are really proud of contemporary dance because of how accepting it is of other styles. But I don't know, it just feels like it's adapting with the times. I see that. Yeah. That's what it's trying to do. But what we're really doing is just fusing with every other style to prove its modern value. But my question is, at what point in adding blue to red do we then surpass purple, the median point of blue and red, and simply become a blue-based paint? In dance terms, if I were to mix bachata and two-step, and I call myself a country dancer, how much bachata do I have to add in before I'm no longer a country dancer and I'm actually a Latin dancer? And when would I claim that I'm no longer a country dancer? That's why I would say we're not evolving, rather, we're conforming. We're conforming to whoever our area sees as the most skilled, and that changes year to year. And right now I'm seeing it change every 3 months. And that creates a herd mentality that is very closed-minded. Because I've seen people that go on 3-month, runs where they just win everything they touch. They get buckle after buckle after buckle. And then they start doing lessons or they start doing a workshop, and then they disappear after like 2 years. They're gone. They don't do anything anymore. Or they've moved to a different style, which again is fine, but then why in certain discussions were they seen as like the epitome of what we do? And I know it's going to be a hard thing to talk about, but this herd mentality that creates closed-mindedness, the conforming is why too many conventions are focused on the spirituality of the dance instead of the technicality. And do you know what forms when a spiritual group lacks understanding or critical thinking? Some of you have already said it, but yeah, that's what we call a cult. And you might say, hey, we teach technical classes. We don't just talk about feeling it through our wrist and rolling our shoulders in a certain manner to express the music. Hint. Country music doesn't really need that. The majority of country music doesn't need body rolls and sensual movements. What it needs is footwork and connection with your partner in a closed position. So you might tell me, yeah, we teach technical classes, and I'm curious what those classes would be, because I know we're not talking on country swing. Considering there still isn't a universal step or sound besides a slow two-step that doesn't follow the beat. Country swing and contemporary styles follow the rhythm, not the beat, or they'll follow the lyrics. That's why so many people are confused about country rhythms, is because you've never listened to the beat. You only ever listen to how quickly or how emotionally the singer sings it. You don't listen to the drums. What you're really speaking on technicality is West Coast swing, which is why you'll never find a country convention that lacks a West Coast swing class, instructor, and or judge. If I'm wrong, please DM me. I'd be happy to apologize and join your event. Really, I would promote it. But we have folks entering and marketing their event to us as the essence of country dance, but yet they have more West Coast swing judges, instructors, and influencers than most West Coast swing events. Because country dancing is massive. We have no need for popularity. We're already super popular. We don't need to market ourselves. We're already marketable. But yet we still just keep pushing West Coast swing. And there's also a point that a lot of people would say, you just despise West Coast swing. You've talked so negatively on it. No, I've defended country swing. When you claim to be one thing and you continue prioritizing and promoting another thing over that, it doesn't matter if it's country dance or not. I will be confused and normally ask you, why are you doing that? Why would you call something blue when it's red or red when it's blue? It just doesn't make sense. Especially when people like me are looking for red and I get handed blue, or I'm looking for blue and I get handed red. Expectations mean everything. And a lot of people are selling this new innovation product, but they don't realize that they're the ones feeding the problem in the first place. I mean, we're trying so hard to make contemporary styles acceptable while ignoring the foundations of the very style they want to be validated in. I mean, if that's country dance they want to be validated in. To be honest, I feel more so that we want to be validated by the ballroom and, West Coast swing than country dancing. But we're seeking so hard to unify a style that was never meant to be unified. It's like reinventing the wheel and telling off the mechanic because he tried to show you how the machine has always operated. I'm also really confused how we preach these contemporary styles as hot and new, yet also historically based. Some instructors will say this is a brand new dance, which would push people to think, wow, it's new, I want to get on this train before it takes off. While also some other instructors will say, oh yeah, this is what cowboys have always done. It's the most country, which pulls on the heartstrings of other, cowboys and country folk. And that confuses them because then they learn these styles and they recognize, Papa doesn't look like this when he dances with Granny, and it's because that's not what Papa did. Papa learned the two-step. Papa learned the waltz. That's what he did. And to me, it's the reason why no one's connecting the dots and why there's so much drama about the foundation of contemporary dances. But I would like to clarify, my biggest issue is not with those people. My biggest issue is not with contemporary dancers or the instructors or, city slickers trying to lead or whatever, like culture vultures trying to make a big buck. Quick buck, rather. The worst to me is a silent majority that DMs me complaints but never speaks up. And I'm sorry if you're listening right now and that's what you've done to me in the past, and I appreciate getting messages. Truly, don't stop. But I think some people try to out-negative me in a sense. They want to complain more than me. When in the end, I never really wanted to complain. The only reason I bring things forward is so that other people are aware of it, because I've genuinely had people not believe me when I tell them, like, oh yeah, we have country dance comps with people that are in full hip hop gear, or, dancing against follows that wear mesh pants and thongs. Like, they don't believe me. Telling them that I'm the only cowboy hat in all but maybe one comp. They genuinely don't believe me. And so I share these things and I express these things because I want people to see what I see, and they don't. But now that we are seeing it a lot, I feel like a lot of people are trying to validate or be seen by me in being more extreme in their distaste towards that. I want you to know, continue talking to me, but what you could really help me in is finding those people that are doing things right. And if I haven't already seen it, that allows me then to promote that person, because I'll talk about that later, but that's what I need to see. That makes my day. And in the end, if I'm the only person saying something, it sounds like a John Carter issue, not a community issue. But if everyone speaks up, it can be received well and with understanding because you're in those communities. Your voice is super valuable. Some people have told me, well, John, I don't think I can speak on this. I'm not country, or I'm not knowledgeable enough. Neither am I. I'll never be country enough or Western enough or hick enough or redneck enough. There's so many people that on the other side that a lot of these contemporary dancers don't see that I'm also fighting back, which I'll talk about them later on. But I'm also pushing against the country community itself because a lot of cowboys are really shitty dancers, like very, very bad dancers. But contemporary dancers don't see me correct them because they're not connected to those people, so they don't hear that. You have far more value in your community than you know, and it's not based on your skill. It's based on truth. And if you find truth, you need to share that. In the end, I'm not here to break folks down. I'm really not. That's why even talking about these things, it doesn't make me happy at all. But I genuinely can't find anyone else that's speaking on them. That's why I started Honky Tonk Traditions. I'm just here to educate, so we can have a deeper understanding. We need to understand where our potential as artists may truly be found. If you constantly look to your friend's family who seems to be better off than your family, and you invest in what they're doing, you'll never bring honor to your family name because you are so focused on your other friends. Comparison. There's potential in country dancing, and people have always said that. But the problem is the past 20 years, we've looked to other styles to give us value, to give us validation, when in reality, it's always been within us. That's why I just refuse to see us fusing or copying other styles as somehow our peak of creativity or evolution. We have the tools. We've just forgotten how diverse our toolbox is, because tradition takes time, and it's restraining to those who view dancing as a means to an end. I get it. I really get it. But that's why I'm trying to not be the only one carrying this weight, because many hands make light work. I was always told that growing up. Many hands make light work. But I always like to say, many shoulders make light weight. If we all pick up a little bit and we carry it over our back, it's not going to feel like that much. And the next thing you know, we get stronger because of it, and we don't even notice it because everyone is carrying it. But enough negativity. Let's focus on some positives. So let me tell you some things I'm positive of. Some things I'm positive of is that country swing was a rodeo style that was only given a name to tie together what can be described as ruffies wanting to sleep with girls, but not wanting to learn to dance like grandpa. If you don't believe me, show me a married man who still country swings. A married man who still country swings. And I will show you an unhappy and or injured wife. Truly. I mean, every cowboy I've ever known to country swing learns how to slow dance and find a close position once they get married. That's one thing I also am so confused about with country swing. How do y'all form relationships? You're never like brushing each other's buckles. You're never talking without swinging past each other. You can't dance without moving, and so therefore you never really get to slow down and appreciate each other. And that's why, like I said before, cowboys are consistently terrible at dancing. That's why we call their popular style where you put your arm behind someone's neck, we call it goat roping. And I mean, that makes sense though, because I mean, consider the amount of time they have. They don't have much time to train. They're also not going to spend money on that. But also we have to recognize that every man they see to learn from is either super stiff, like really stiff, and some people take pride in that. That they connect their hips to their shoulders and it looks very like stiff as a board. I don't see country dancing as that. But then the other side is that we also have trainers that are just country dance instructors rather that are just as flamboyant as Gene Simmons. And if you don't know who that is, just go look up a photo and you'll understand. You either have to be super stiff or flamboyant. And I just don't no cowboy wants to do that. Even I don't want to do that. And I'm trying to be understanding and more expressive, but I just don't want to do that. Another thing I'm positive of is that hip hop dancers will begin sliding over to line dancing once word gets out how easy it is to make a buck off of lessons. Just as West Coast swing will continue spreading through our convention as they charge $80 for a private lesson to show us how to be more expressive in our wrist. That's no diss towards West Coast swing as a whole. That's diss towards people who take advantage of other people. This all is going to push country dancers to become more contemporary, which will make them complacent or even prefer non-country music choices. I'll give you a hint. This isn't a prophecy. This is already happening, and you've already seen it. It's rooted in the mainstream of country dance. And to be honest, I don't blame folks from the outside getting the money they want. That's great. Okay, cool. But why are folks inside the community continue to fight those who are making them aware of the appropriation? You're getting mad for people holding you accountable. When we're not saying it from the outside, we're inside the house. We are claiming to be country dancers as well. We are doing country styles. You can't invalidate that. Yet we are just bringing the truth forward. Hey, this is going on. And because you're made aware of it, you get mad at us. I just don't get it. Another thing I'm positive of is that fun is not the main goal of dancing. It's an expectation. I made a post on this. If you're confused about it, you can look more there. But fun is your responsibility, to be honest. I mean, yeah, in the ballroom, people don't always have fun because they're there to, get the glory of winning, or maybe they want to make money somehow, which I don't know if ballroom dancers even make that much money. That's just dancing as a whole. But fun comes down to you. I mean, that's how life is. And fun can also happen from painful or boring experiences. So I think that's just proof that you are always responsible for that. And if you don't think fun can come from painful or boring experiences, look to the people that do them in groups, because let me clarify, that's where the fun comes from with pain or boring experiences if you do them in a group. I mean, you ask any soldier, Marine, sailor, or airman if they miss basic training, and the answer will 99% be yes because of the bond they have through obnoxious punishment. In basic training, they were pissed off. In that initial training, during it, they didn't understand it and it wasn't funny to them. But after, as soon as you graduate, it's hilarious. Why did we have to do push-ups because, some kid's socks was this way? Or why did we have to, it's funny to think about. And every guy will have a story. And by guy, I mean guy, to clarify. But every person will have a story from basic where it was a goofy reason they got smoked, but it's funny now, right? So I think we need to understand that we have the privilege to dance. Like I said before, dancing used to be more of a high class thing, unless you were just kind of jumping around and the expression of dance, yes, but to actually dance structured, that was not a thing before. Like square dancing was like our only example, festivals. But again, to me, those are just kind of unorganized calls to a dance, right? You can be super wasted and still do them. So if you're trying to make a dance fun, I think you're doing it wrong. The dance should come from the connections, comfort, and culture that make everyone feel like they're a part of the community. And considering this is a country dancing community, shouldn't country folk feel the most welcome? I mean, I could be wrong, but I just feel, again, if we're going to call ourselves a country dance community, shouldn't we make country people feel the most comfortable? Which, again, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but people have stopped, certain people have stopped calling themselves country or honky tonk or anything like that because they recognize the accountability and they don't want to be country, yet they're still getting invited and representing and influencing these country dance arenas without having any accountability. Because again, once you take away that title, why would anyone hold you accountable? It makes no sense. Another thing I'm positive of is just learning two-step nullifies the point of joining the traditional revival. Unless your DJ knows what a two-step is and only plays that on. Because if they're a normal DJ, they're going to play all the styles without knowing it. And in return, you'll two-step to everything. Which that either continues the cycle of not listening to the music or it will kill your confidence. If you can keep a beat and you're still trying to two-step to a waltz, you're going to recognize that. You're like, what the hell is going on? Another thing you'll probably do is you'll just return to country swing as soon as you hear a song that isn't a two-step, which is pointless since country swing songs are just slow two-step songs with heavy drops. So the songs that you should be two-stepping to, you'll just say, oh, this is a country swing song. And then because you didn't learn how to waltz, polka, triple two, or even cha-cha, you don't know what other styles are there with the song. So as soon as you hear another song, you're not going to follow in those styles. You only learn two-step, which is the songs you would normally country swing to. So then a waltz plays and you're just going to country swing to it because that's what you did. I kind of want to talk on a tangent there, actually. Consider every convention we have right now. It's just country swing, line dance, and then they'll promote two-step if they feel like they want to be fancy or almost like a one-up. So is two-step replacing these country swing comps in the slightest? Think about that. A lot of places are adding in two-step, but when we go to the comp that night, are people two-stepping to country swing songs, which is the slow two-step with a heavy drop? No. Because again, like I said, when they hear that 4/4 song with the train track type beat, their thought is not two-step. Their thought is what they're comfortable with. We fall back on our training, not on our expectations. And that the comfort for them is country swing. But I digress. In the end, we want everyone to be able to enjoy all honky-tonk music. And we don't just want you sitting on the side. So just like leading a popular line dance, it's important to learn traditional styles since that's the music that should be played. Having that knowledge also gives you the ability to learn regional styles quicker since they're based off a traditional style. I mean, think about language. If you only know formal or brainwashed media jargon, traditional styles are simple because they're a gateway to so much more about what we are as a culture. The way we walk our follows on the floor, the way we hold ourselves, the way we talk to one another. That's all from our dance style. My last thing I'm positive about is that contemporary dancing forces follows to know the moves or feel inadequate. You have one choice or the other. Either you get the moves or you know them already, or you're going to feel inadequate because traditional style gives you footwork. So both of you can fall back on that and enjoy the dance and build the connection that you need to have to understand one another. With confidence comes that ability to adapt to each other and you move quicker and more consistently, because that failure only means you just got to retreat back to the basics, just go back to your two-step. And then you can continue enjoying the song. Not to continue doing moves until you fully send that move again. And that's what I see a lot with country swing. You either like keep sending the move or you slow it down and try to teach it on the dance floor. Like a social dance floor, you just stop and you try to teach this move. And that to me is you're blocking traffic. But again, that's a stationary floor, which is why I say you need to adapt to the floor. But the goal should always be a counterclockwise track-like progressive system. It descends from the outside to the middle when it comes to speed, and then the center space is left open for stationary dancers like line dancers or swing dancers. This allows for more dancers on the floor safely, and it allows quick entering and exiting, and you can expect things from other dancers. So yeah, if you're worried I might be talking about you in some of these scenarios, or maybe if you're not openly supporting or speaking out about the things I just talked about, I just want you to know that like your silence is going to be taken by the contemporary dancers as supporting their views against what I've mentioned. And I can't always say this, I try to do my best to be mature and comfortable and confident in what I'm saying, but it's very distracting sometimes, and I have to really give myself a pep talk in a sense, because I see so many people that will speak so strongly in support of what I'm doing in the DMs and then or in person, and then they'll reshare people who blatantly go against exactly what we just talked about. And it's because they're like trying to be friendly to that person, but you can be friendly to that person without having to share all their content. Or if you support both of us, then, or maybe, let's say you want to be a traditional dancer more, but you still are friends with this person, then share traditional dancing more than you share that person, but it's pretty clear why you're sharing that person. And so, if the fuego fits, wear it. But I just want to warn you that for those who don't care about tradition, who think what all I'm saying, and if you're still here, thank you. But just know, like, if you don't care about tradition, your students won't care about what you have to teach. Some people are going to try to push back on that right now, but just stay here. Because as soon as they do all of your combos you've worked years to develop, you will become irrelevant. It took you a decade to learn all those moves. It's going to take them less than 2 years. I mean, again, why do you think the top of the food chain is changing each year? We have legends in the community, but a lot of people either create drama between those legends or this person gets beat, and so people stop caring. When skill becomes our foundation, we become irrelevant as soon as we get beat. And that's why folks are going to continue making groups with no intention of maintaining traditions. They look no different than anyone else because their only focus is fun, and that's what they'll say. Every new group I just keep hearing that, oh, we just want to, maintain social dancing, as if social dancing isn't at an all-time high right now. We just want to have fun. Okay, well, have fun. Why do you need to form a group that confuses people? People feel pressure to join you, or they're curious because they feel you might have something new to say. And those groups just continue forming cliques and tribes until they're going to either destroy each other or the resources run dry. And since no one stood out of those groups, all those groups will disappear and join the pipeline to another style, usually West Coast swing, once country becomes uncool again. If you don't know, country will become uncool again. It happens every probably 20 years. We had it in the 50s, we had it in the 70s, we had it in the 80s, 90s-ish, and then it didn't happen again until 2020. We're in a renaissance. We're hugely blessed, yet we're not even staying up to date with the current new music. If it's not contemporary, if it's not pop or what's on the radio, we don't know it. And majority of the time, too, you just listen to rap or hip-hop from 2010. So I just find it difficult to identify as a country dancer these days. I mean, all I can say is I'm just an Arkansas boy who loves to, two-step, polka, waltz, and triple two. That's what I do comfortably. And I have a love for East Coast swing, cumbia, and quick-step. I enjoy bars that look like museums, and they smell like time. Just timeless spots where I can drink around folks that value a handshake, gritty women, and a slow way of living. And if you can relate to that and you're currently pushing traditional styles or supporting your local spots or bands, truly, thank you. I'm grateful for you, and more than likely, we've probably already spoken. My biggest suggestion is continue asking why. Ask why for everything. You do a regional dance? Awesome. How did that come about? Keep asking why. On one side, you can pass on the history that you learned because that's going to be more accurate now. I mean, you're also continuing the reason history is even history. It started out word of mouth, and then we put it on paper. And on the other hand, you begin to understand how closely you're connected to other regional styles and unity begins to replace any animosity that might come from the "we're better than you" mentality, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many folks here in the stockyards claim I'm not a country dancer because I don't teach the Fort Worth shuffle. All I tell them is that there's a reason that Triple Two made it out of the 90s and the Fort Worth shuffle didn't. Just because I know how to do something doesn't mean I'm going to teach it. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So in closing, ignore the gatekeepers and continue being outlaws. If you are doing traditional styles, continue following the music, continue dancing in boots, continue serving your community. We'll be right back here next week with Cody Bolden. Thank you for making it this far. Don't forget, keep honky tonks country.